Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to Fat Cat Collections. Got another fragrance review for you guys today, and this is kind of a not two-part, but a double fragrance unboxing. I have today Braveheart, and this says Zamaya, and I think this, if I remember correctly, is by, I'm not sure on this one here now. I thought this was by like Fragrance World, but obviously I'm wrong. And then of course we have one here by, who the hell makes this one? I think this is this Latafa? Oud Mood Elixir. So, be nice if I knew the fragrances before doing the video, right? So, alright, so we got Oud Mood Elixir and Braveheart. And the reason I have both these fragrances is because these fragrances are compared to African leather. And you can obviously see on Braveheart, you have sort of a similar, this is like a cheetah on here. And if you've ever checked out the brand Memo Paris, a lot of their fragrances, when it comes to these leathery notes, tend to have the cheetah on there, right? Like they have an African rose. So they're kind of like just, I don't know, they use that quite a bit, that animal, in several of their fragrances, right? Other times they have like a lion, and there's different, like Russian leather has like a bear, it looks like. So they have different leathery fragrances and sort of different themes in each one of these. And the reason I'm going to give tribute or pay homage to a YouTuber, Cubano. He's reviewed African leather, and just the way that he describes a lot of his fragrances makes me want to get them. But I'm not going to spend, you know, the $200 on African leather. So I was looking for something that would kind of get me in that ballpark. And these are amazing clones. And I picked this up on Amazon for like 20 bucks. And it is incredible. Now, I can't confirm that this smells exactly like African leather, but a lot of these fragrance companies, you know, if you're looking for the exact fragrance, right? I mean, you probably should just buy the fragrance. I'm kind of open to things being kind of close, get me in the same ballpark at a fraction of the cost. I just don't want to spend what it costs for these incredibly expensive fragrances, right? And I just feel like at the end of the day, I don't feel like you're going to get one. If one fragrance is trying to dupe another, I don't think you're going to get one where you're like, oh, this is awful. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the comparison of watches. Like if you don't have the Rolex, this other watch is a shitter. That's not the case. You're still going to get a really great wearing experience, and you're going to enjoy owning inexpensive watches. And I feel the same way about fragrances. You can get a lot of bang for your buck for a really cheap price. So let's face it, all these fragrances right out the bottle smell one way, and then they kind of change most of the time over time. And also it's going to kind of change on your skin. Your skin's going to determine if a fragrance like lasts longer, or if it even smells identical to somebody else with a different skin type wearing the same fragrance. What I mean by that is everybody has a different scent. So if you have two people that have no scent, I don't think they're going to smell different, right? But if you have somebody who just naturally has, maybe they put on certain kind of skin cream, they use a certain type of soap, shower gel, shampoo, all these different scents, laundry detergent, kind of will change how a fragrance is perceived on somebody else, right? So at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit if it's one-to-one identical, if it gets me in that ballpark. So the other one here, we know that this is meant to be a clone of African leather, right? Well, the other one here that has not gotten a lot of like reviews on YouTube is this one here. Again, Oud Mood Elixir. Now, don't get this confused with Oud Satin Mood. It's nothing like that at all. I actually had a bottle of that, and to me it was really kind of off-putting. Even though it's a fantastic fragrance, people like rave about it, it just wasn't for me. And so I ended up selling it and getting a bunch of other fragrances. These weren't ones I bought with the money, but I got rid of that. And there's not many fragrances that I don't wear. For whatever reason, this wasn't for me. So don't get this confused. There's nothing like Oud Satin Mood, right? This is its own thing. Now, 26 people say this smells like African leather. 16 people say it does not. When I compare these two fragrances, if we pretend for a second that this is a one-to-one dupe of African leather, I would say side by side, they have a similarity, but they're really two different fragrances. So again, this is where you got to kind of take Fragrantica with a grain of salt. What I like about Fragrantica is it kind of puts you in the same kind of ballpark, right? If you smell African leather and you say, oh, you know, this is a scent profile that I really like and I appreciate this, then you're probably going to like both these because there is a difference. This one does have kind of like a little bit more of a animalistic vibe to it. These are absolutely fantastic fragrances. And I don't know, I know I've said in other videos, that like you can wear whatever you want when you want, but I do think these are more colder scents, and I wouldn't overdo it on the trigger because I feel like both these can be extremely animalic and very cloying if you overdo it. If you're gonna be outside, you're gonna be out and about, not in a cooped up in an office or a house, knock yourself out. But these are both fantastic fragrances. Now, I don't have tons of information on these, and just recently, I'd say in the last year, Oud Mood Elixir finally popped up on Fragrantica. The Braveheart has not yet. So I was going to describe to you what they state about African leather and the notes and what they list on here. And again, take this with a grain of salt as well. What they state about Oud Mood. And see if we see any kind of comparisons between these on why there might be that comparison. So when we look at African leather, we have the saffron note, and there's African leather is broken down as one set of notes, like a linear note pyramid or note breakdown. There's no pyramid. That doesn't mean they got it correct, but I'm just going to give you what we have here. So we have the similarities between these notes are saffron. We have one has suede, the other one has leather. We can kind of layer those because it is still leather, right? Then of course we have oud in both these fragrances, and we have the addition of, let's see if there's any other layering notes here. Cumin, cumin and cardamom, when you start, kind of mixing those two, and then you have nutmeg and cinnamon, we might kind of have a little bit of similarity as far as the way that those smell when they layer. But those are really, the main, I'd say, kind of layering notes that are kind of similar, When we look at African leather, we have the addition, I'm just going to give you guys the notes. Cardamom, leather, saffron, cumin, vetiver, patchouli, geranium, agarwood or oud, bergamot, and musk. And when we look at the note breakdown of Lattafa Oud Mood Elixir, we have saffron, nutmeg, cinnamon, oud, suede, sandalwood, amber, and vanilla. So remember, sometimes these notes, if both these fragrances are heavy in saffron and heavy in oud, if those are like the main, we don't know the percentages of these notes, right? We might have a 90%, and this is the extreme, probably not this, but let's say a 90% saffron concentration of both these, and a 90, and like a, let's say, I shouldn't say 90, but let's say a heavy concentration of saffron, heavy concentration of oud, then your mind is going to build similarities between both those fragrances because you're going to recognize notes that you're familiar with and say, hey, you know what, these, I can get that vibe. So my point is that neither of these fragrances smell identical to African leather, right? They're just not going to be one-to-one, but they are going to get you in that same ballpark. And if you like African leather, or you like I keep forgetting the name, Braveheart, or you like Oud Elixir, or what do we call this? Elixir Oud Mood, then you're probably going to like all those fragrances. And it's going to, again, put you in the ballpark where you're going to get that similar vibe. We're going to just go over to Braveheart and just right off Google here. And this is kind of what's nice about the internet, right? You can look up these notes and kind of build similarities and maybe find something it's a lot cheaper, right? When we go to a guy who I've watched before, I haven't watched him for a while, Post Cologne, he's compared this is Afnan, let me see what he says here, Afnan, I don't think this is Afnan, this might be a different clone actually. Let me see what he has here. Bear with me just one second, folks. Unedited raw. What does he got here? I think this is, where the hell is it? Braveheart. No, that is the one. So he says this is by Afnan. I'm not seeing, I just see Braveheart Zamaya. So maybe that's the full name. Maybe this is Afnan. But he's comparing this also to a clone fragrance of African leather. And he said it's awfully close, right? Let me just play what he's stating here.
All right, so there we have the box presentation for
move forward a little bit.
Zimia Braveheart. This is actually opens up like so, revealing our bottle, sits in a nice little presentation, and the cap on this is actually
who cares?
Vanilla style of sweetness, kind of soft vanilla, and leather coming forward right away, but really nice in the air right now. This is a beautiful leathery style of fragrance. Admittedly, I have not tried the Memo African leather, so I can't say for sure. I'm just basing it off of just the presentation off this, and that's all I know. But let's get this on paper.
All right, so basically, like here's what you should know. is that basically us YouTube influencers when it comes to fragrances are sometimes just full of shit and don't fucking know. So we're giving you, the point is we're giving you our best, like, not interpretation, we're giving you our best description of what we smell in these fragrances. It's very hard for me to pinpoint notes in this, but because I am familiar with leather, of course, and cardamom, I get those vibes. And oud, I can definitely pinpoint oud in a lot of fragrances, but I know that this video is maybe not going to answer every question or any question you may have about this fragrance, but I think it's a real winner. And I think that if you smelled African leather and you like those kinds of leathery, what I, again, would say more of a cold weather scent, fall, winter, you know, I get why people say that. If you like oud and you like these, what I would consider very sticky, heavy fragrances, I would give these a go. I think these are both fantastic fragrances. I think I would, in all honesty, I'll put a link to both these in the description. I would also, if you get one, get both. They're cheap enough. And if you, again, if you do like fragrances like African leather and you ended up discovering this video based on you looking for something that's kind of similar, I wouldn't consider these. I would probably consider this one closer, again, but admittedly, like just like Post Cologne says, I've not smelled African leather, but I'm going off what other YouTubers. Before I bought this, I was looking for a good deal on this for quite some time, and I watched a lot of other YouTubers make the comparison, and I think it's safe to say this is a pretty decent clone of African leather. And if you like that, and you, again, you're looking for that, they give this a go too. This would almost be considered, I don't want to say flanker because it's not, but if you dig that scent, I think you'll definitely dig this one. It's definitely more animalic, and I think you'll dig it. So that's about it, folks. Thanks for watching. I hope you stayed with me during the whole presentation. And if I can help in any way, drop me a comment or drop me an email. I'm always here to help. Take care, folks. Have a good day.